ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापादकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कंचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतुषे नमः। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपसिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna and welcome again to Sri Damodarashtakam classes. So today I think we will most likely be completely concluding our discussion of the text of the Damodarashtakam, and then we will go into our discussion of the Damodar Lila. We will be hearing and to a degree studying the pastime, which is recorded in the 10th canto of Granth-raj Srimad Bhagavatam. And which pastime is it? It is a pastime that Satyavrata Muni is worshipping and glorifying in this Damodarashtakam. And not just glorifying with some mindless intent, not just glorifying for the sake of glorification. But Satyavrata Muni, he has a very intended goal, as we have seen in our study of the text over the past few months, over the past month. We have seen that Satyavrata Muni, he sort of develops his thesis, he develops his idea. Throughout the text, he develops his desire. Initially, it begins, yes, with a glorification of the Supreme Lord, almost a Mangalacharan. And then it goes into a development of his desire to see the Supreme Lord, to witness the Supreme Lord within his heart. He begins to have this longing, this very specific longing to see the Supreme Lord within the domains of his heart constantly, that he may be permitted to perpetually meditate on this form of Damodar, bound up. And then, as this desire develops, a certain, if you will, audacious level of greed to have darshan of such a transcendental form flourishes in his heart. And then at this point, he becomes very eager, very keen to see the Lord before him. To witness the Lord right before him in his senses, not just to meditate upon him in his heart, but to see him before him constantly. And how can he do this? First, he develops it through kirtan. Namo Deva Damo Dharananta Vishnu. He is engaging in Harinam Sankirtan. But with this Harinam Sankirtan, he realizes the only way by which I can truly be guaranteed to constantly have darshan of the Lord is through obtaining Krishna Prema, love for Krishna. And so then he continues, and he begs and asks that in the same way that those sons of Kuvera, in the same way that they were gifted prem, alongside moksha, Krishna, I don't even want moksha, just give me prema. Na mokshe graho mesti damodareha. Oh Damodar. And then we reached that developed fully, that desire fully developed. Satyavrata Muni now, he desires only Krishna Prem, and he realizes the best way to do so is through the transcendental devotees of the Lord. And so he prays, Namaste stu damne spura dipti damne tvadi doyarayatha vishvasya dhamne Namo radhikaya tvadiya priyaya namo nanta lilaya devaya tubhyam. He prays like this. And we were discussing something of the very esoteric position in which such prayers are having, or rather indicating. It is not that he said Namo Radhikaya and then said, now I will start describing the Ras Lila, all of these high things. Only I'm giving my worship to Srimati Radhika, and all of those pastimes which do exist and are so glorious, but I'm not qualified to discuss. This is the behavior of Satyavrata Muni, and he's indicating very, very high things by doing this. So then, what do we hear? The first half we spoke about a tiny bit, because what are the glories of these devotees? Srimati Radharani is the greatest of the devotees, but what makes it so great to be the greatest of the devotees? What makes it so great to be a devotee in general? Because if we understand the greatness of the devotee, then we understand the absolute position that the greatest devotee has. If we understand how great the devotees are, then we will understand how magnificent the greatest of the devotees must be. And we remember, Tvadi doyarayatha vishvasya dhamne. I give my obeisances even to that belly of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That belly which is the foundation of all material existence. Garbhodhakashayi Vishnu, from his navel comes Brahma, and is situated upon that lotus stem all of the planetary systems. This is just the glories of Garbhodhakashayi Vishnu's belly. Let alone Krishna, Damodar, let alone his supremely worshipable belly. Not just 14 planetary systems, but all of the planetary systems of all of the unlimited material universes all rest upon his belly. And yet, Mother Jashoda, the pure devotee, she conquered that belly. She tied that belly up. And therefore she conquered in turn all of the planetary systems. Therefore, in turn, she had the full conquest of them. So like this, we understand, the devotee is no small thing. The devotee, the pure devotee, is the most powerful personality in existence. Because all that is Krishna's, all that Krishna reigns supreme over, which, by the way, is everything, all of that is conquered by the devotees conquering Krishna. When one king defeats another king, he absorbs all of his kingdoms. In the same way, the pure devotee, by conquering Krishna, absorbs the conquest of all of reality. This is the elevated position, again, of the pure devotee. So then how great must be that personality who is the greatest of all devotees. This is how great the devotees are. And yet the greatest of devotees, Srimati Radhika, she holds this power in such a great deal that we cannot speak openly of the pastimes by which she enacts these things, because we will not be able to understand. Again, this is why Satyavrata Muni, he has said, Namo Radhikaya Tvadiya Priyaya Namananta Lilaya, Ananta Lila, so many pastimes there are. Satyavrata Muni has shown he is more than capable of composing poetry if he wished to describe them. But he does wish to describe them, but not openly. And so he has left such rasic, elevated conversations to be held within the intimacy of senior Vaishnavas and those disciples of theirs, who those senior Vaishnavas deem fit and who they deem it appropriate to hear such esoteric pastimes. But this is what we discussed. But I wanted to discuss something quickly. We've discussed Tvadi Doyaraya Vishwasya Dhamne, we've discussed Namo Radhikaya, Tvadiya Priyaya, and we've discussed Namo Nanta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam. But there is also a very interesting point to be made about Namastestu Dhamne, Spura Dipti Dhamne. Because at the beginning, Srila Satyavrata Muni, he is paying respects to what? He is paying respects to the very rope. The very rope that binds Krishna. This is what he's paying his respects to. He's paying, and of course we heard that this rope, it is composed of pure concentrated Brahman. But there is a very specific point that we should understand that is made by doing this. And this point can be illustrated by a pastime from Mahaprabhu's Lila. This pastime is from the 12th canto of Madhya Lila, which is, as maybe many of us should know, actually we remember so many things in our day-to-day lives. We remember all these movies, TV shows, song lyrics. If you ask somebody about any TV show that's popular that they're watching, you ask them roughly what happened in season 2, they'll be able to give you an overview. Ask them what happened in any canto of Bhagavatam. Ask them just to say one canto that isn't 10th canto of Bhagavatam and tell you what happened inside it. Most people wouldn't be able to, even among devotees. But actually, we should be cultivating this. Not that we memorize every shlok of Bhagavatam and Caitanya Caritamrita. But when somebody says Caitanya Caritamrita, your mind should be able to say Adi Lila, Madhya Lila, Antya Lila. You should be able to see these three. And you should have a rough overview of what happens in each one of these sections. And actually, you should be able to roughly break it into chapters. Adi Lila is easy. All the chapters are speaking on philosophy. But even you could break it down into the separate sections. Then we can speak Madhya Lila. The first few chapters or so are about Mahaprabhu's relocating to Jagannath Puri after taking sannyas. Then the next few chapters are the South India tour. Then the next few chapters, they are the return to Jagannath Puri in the Rath Yatra. Then his trip to Vrindavan, like this. We should be able to do this. Also Bhagavatam, first canto, we should be able to break down. The chapters at the beginning, we are hearing about Naimisharanya. We are hearing about the Yagya. Then we are hearing a little bit later, we are hearing about the situation by which Vyasadeva was able to hear Bhagavatam, how he was instructed to compose it. Then we hear about how the pastimes which allow Parikshit Maharaj to rise. Like this, we should be able to have a general understanding of the flow of Bhagavatam and of Caitanya Caritamrita and of Bhagavad Gita. So when we say chapter 12 of Madhya Lila, maybe we don't know off the top of our head what chapter 12 is, but we should have some understanding roughly where it is in Caitanya Caritamrita. We waste our times with so much useless knowledge, so much useless information. So many people say, oh Prabhu, I cannot memorize, I can't remember. 99% of the time, that's just an excuse. Ask them the lyrics of their favorite song, they'll tell you. Ask them what happened in the past few seasons of their favorite TV show, they'll tell you. Ask them what's happening in the news in this country or that country, they'll tell you. It's not that most people have bad memory. It's that most people are too lazy to have any passion or study for the Shastras. Actually, they should just be upfront. There would be no problem with this. Better that devotees say, I'm too lazy to study Shastra. I'm too lazy to care about the Shastras. At least there is some honesty there. But so many excuses. Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. So much nonsense we're memorizing. At least we can memorize the rough direction of Shastra. Anyways, enough of that heaviness. So, chapter 12, we are hearing very sweet pastime actually. Just before the Gundicha Mandir Marjan, just before this, Mahaprabhu, he has just returned from the South India tour. When we resume the Caitanya Caritamrita classes, we will discuss about the remainder of his South India tour. And we will discuss also this pastime actually again. But we won't discuss this pastime in depth, only just to make the point. So, Mahaprabhu, he has returned from his South India tour. And there was the king of Orissa, Maharaj Prataparudra. And he was very, very much desirous to meet Mahaprabhu. And so, we remember that George Harrison, if you will, of Gaur Lila, that great celebrity who Mahaprabhu brought to Krishna consciousness, and by doing that allowed the legitimization and the intensification of his preaching project to become so much more immense. Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, he was approached by Maharaj Prataparudra. And Maharaj Prataparudra, he said, please, I know you are an associate of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I know you are having a very intimate relationship with him. Please go speak to him. Please go ask him. Please go ask him if I could have permission to have his darshan. However, Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, he had to reply with bad news. Mahaprabhu had not given permission. But Maharaj Prataparudra, he was not ready to give up. He was very, very much desirous. Again, not to go back to that heavy discussion, but actually I will. This is the intensity of desire we should have. Most people, we make up excuses. We make up excuses about why we do not wish to read Shastra, chant our rounds like this. We'll have all sorts of excuses. We'll make up excuses that aren't there. But Maharaj Prataparudra, far from that, we will see in this pastime, he had so much intense desire that even with so many valid reasons to discourage him, he kept on going. This is the level, the intensity of desire that we should have. And we will see it in Maharaj Prataparudra. It is no cheap thing. Sometimes people say, oh, surely Krishna wouldn't care about this. What nonsense to say. Who are you to decide what Krishna will care about and what Krishna won't? Even if you live the most perfect life on earth, that is not worthy of bhakti. For many reasons. One, bhakti is independent and supreme. It is not influenced by pious activities. One can be a vegetarian and not even look at a cup of coffee for 6 million lifetimes and still have zero, not even a fraction, zero contribution to their devotional advancement. There is this reason. But also, the value of Krishna consciousness, the value of devotional service is so high that there is nothing we can do to think to earn it, and yet we have the audacity to think that, oh no, Krishna won't care. He says he does. My spiritual master, who is his divine representative, says he does. Oh, but would he really care? Come on. Would he really be that strict? That strict over something so powerful that, as we have just discussed in Damodarashtakam, something so powerful that it can conquer Krishna himself, and Krishna's going to just go easy? Rascaldom, nonsense. The devotees are meant to be an ocean of mercy, but unfortunately we are more often than not an ocean of excuses. So continuing, Maharaj Prataparudra, he was not ready to give up, so he wrote another letter. And in this letter, Maharaj Prataparudra, he requested from Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya, he said, please ask all the devotees who are the associates of Mahaprabhu, please ask them to ask on my behalf. Please ask them to deliver this message of my desire as well. This is very intelligent. Maharaj Prataparudra had great, deep spiritual understanding. Because who are we to access the Lord? What does the Lord want to do with us? This is not the way. The way to approach the Lord is not to approach him directly. Only by the mercy of the Vaishnavas are we able to access Krishna. It's like at a party. If somebody goes to a party and they see the host of the party, the coolest guy around, they see the host of the party and maybe they'll think, I cannot approach this person. Maybe they're going to some fancy party, and at this party all of the significant people of society are there. And you see there the Prime Minister. You can't just go up and say, hey, how are you? I mean, you can, But what will the Prime Minister think? He'll say, okay, hello, shake your hands, nice to see you, citizen, yada yada. But if you're friends with a friend of the Prime Minister, and that friend, he takes you to the Prime Minister and says, hey, this is so-and-so Das. He is my good friend. He's really cool. We should hang out all together, all of us. Then the Prime Minister will behave very differently. In the same way, we must beg the mercy of the Vaishnavas, and not just the great acharyas, not just Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. All the great Vaishnavas who surround us now, we must beg for their mercy as well, so that they may introduce us to Krishna. This should be our goal. And this is the only means by which we can practically actually be introduced to Krishna. The only means. So, like this, we are hearing. So then, Maharaj Prataprudra, he is saying, but if I have the favor of the devotees, then surely this will be successful. Only by the mercy of all of the devotees, one can obtain the lotus feet of the Lord. And Maharaj Prataprudra said, I am actually very dear and eager for the mercy of the Vaishnavas. Why? Because without the mercy of the Vaishnavas, I will not have darshan of the Supreme Lord. I will not have darshan of Mahaprabhu. I will not have his mercy. And without the mercy of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even my kingdom is like rags to me. And then at that point, Maharaj Prataprudra, he said, Jodi more kripa na koribe goro hori, rajo chari jogi hoibe bhikhari. If Sri Sri Gaura Hari does not show any mercy to me, I will renounce my kingdom and become a beggar, begging door to door. And when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya heard this, he began to feel somewhat anxious, somewhat nervous. But then he took the letter and he distributed it among the devotees. And all of the devotees, they were so astonished and they thought, what a great devotee Maharaj Prataprudra is. He is putting us to shame. His devotion is so great. His devotion is so great. Compared to him, we are nothing. We are so impressed. And this is naturally how the devotees, should be. The devotees should not see the devotion of someone else and become jealous. Oh no. What if people think he is a greater devotee than me? We should not be thinking, oh, I'm giving Bhagavatam class. Oh, and now someone else is giving Bhagavatam class. Oh, his class is better than mine. If we hear somebody doing this, we should rejoice. How amazing it is to hear Krishna Katha spoken so wonderfully. What an amazing devotee. If somebody is chanting 16 rounds and then another person with the blessings of his spiritual authorities is chanting 32 rounds, we shouldn't think, oh, he's outdoing me. Now what's going on? He's outdone me. No, we should think how glorious that this person is progressing in his spiritual life. How amazing that I'm able to have the association of such a wonderful Vaishnava who is having so much attachment to Nam Prabhu. We should think like this. If we are singing kirtan, and then one day maybe it is decided somebody else will sing instead of us, then we should think. What should we think? We should think, Jai. How amazing it is that this devotee is having the opportunity to sing the names of the Lord. Amazing. Now I am able to relish hearing the name of the Lord sung by such a great devotee. This is how we should react. When we see another devotee being more advanced than us, this is a time to rejoice. Not only because we should feel happy that one spirit soul is growing in their Krishna consciousness, but also because our desire should be that Krishna is pleased. And the wonderful fusion of spiritual life is so pleasing to Krishna. our goal is not that we should be advanced, but actually our goal is that Krishna should be pleased. We only advance in spiritual life so that we may please Krishna more. So like this we should think. And thinking in this way, we shall grow in our humility and we shall grow in our appreciation of the Vaishnavas, who again have conquered all of existence. So like this, even though they were so astounded by the, even though they were so astounded by the wonderful devotion that Maharaj Pratabrudra showed, they still thought, Mahaprabhu, he will never meet the king. And if we ask him, he'll be pretty angry at us too. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he then said, let us go to the Lord, but instead of asking the Lord, to give his darshan to Maharaj Pratabrudra, instead let us just glorify Maharaj Pratabrudra. And by glorifying him, then Mahaprabhu, he'll maybe get the idea, oh, I will give my darshan to this great devotee of mine. And so, when they went, they all stood before Mahaprabhu, and then they couldn't speak a word. They were too afraid, they didn't know how to even begin their point. And then Mahaprabhu was looking at them, and he was a little confused. And he was saying, you're all in front of me. You've taken so much effort to come before me, but you are all silent. You are not speaking a word. Ki karon? What is the cause of this? And then Nityananda Prabhu said, look, there's something we wish to tell you. But at the moment, we're rather afraid to say it. Because the thing we want to say, it may or may not be rather appropriate. But actually, I will just say it then. And so they dropped Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's plan. And Nityananda Prabhu just straight up said, what did Nitai say? He said, the matter is this. If Maharaj Pratabrudra does not see you, he will renounce this world, he will renounce his kingdom, and he'll become a mendicant. This king does not want to enjoy even an iota of his kingdom without being able to first see the lotus feet of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Maharaj Pratabrudra, he was saying like this. And actually the type of mendicant, the type of renunciate that Maharaj Pratabrudra was planning on becoming was not such an elevated type. A little bit like how the gypsies, Srila Prabhupada uses this example exactly. How the gypsies are seen in the Western countries is how the type of mendicant that Maharaj Pratabrudra wanted to become was. They are distinguished by having an ivory earring. Not such a great thing. But this was how depressed Maharaj Pratabrudra was. He was thinking, I will become this very not so highly seen type of renunciate. And then so Nityananda Prabhu, he said, he wishes to see your lotus feet, and he would also love to see your moon-like face. He wants to take the lotus feet of your lordship and place it within his heart. And Mahaprabhu, hearing this, his heart deep down was very much softened. He was very much taken by the devotion of his sweet devotee. He was very much impressed, and he was very much happy to hear of the devotional credits of his devotee. But even though he was saying this, still externally for the pastime, he spoke rather heavily. And what did he say? Toma shobar icha e amare lonna raja ke milo ho ihan koto khete giya. I have understood that you all definitely want me to see the king. You all want to take me there to Katak, where Maharaj Pratabrudra lives, and you want me to see him. And then Mahaprabhu continued to speak, and he said, what to speak of spiritual advancement? All the people will blaspheme me. And what to speak of all the people? Damodar, Damodar would chastise me. Toma shobar o agyayo amina mili rajare damodoro kohe jobe mili tobe tare. I shall not meet the king at the request of all the devotees, but I will do so if Damodar if Damodar gives me the injunction. Now one might wonder, why is Mahaprabhu being so hesitant? Why is Mahaprabhu being so hesitant? Why are people going to be criticizing Mahaprabhu? What is going on here? And so Mahaprabhu is making a very specific point. Because technically speaking, as a sannyasi, he should not engage in association with materialistic people. As a sannyasi, he should not engage in that. And if he does, people would judge him. People would criticize him. People would slander him. This would not be in line with his sannyas and dharma. Because sannyasis are always, it is not actually inappropriate to assess the behavior of a sannyasi. It is, in a sense, it is not good to blaspheme devotees, but the sannyasi is always exposed to the public eye. So, if a sannyasi is not properly following the rules, then great repercussions are had in the social fabric if a sannyasi does not follow his rules. So Mahaprabhu is saying, this is against my sannyas dharma. This will not be allowed, and people will criticize me to have the association of such a worldly person as a king, even if he is a great devotee. So he said, if Damodar gives me permission, we should not think this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Damodar. This is Damodar Pandit. Mahaprabhu, we know earlier on when he was departing on a South India tour, he was saying that Damodar Pandit, he is chastising me all the time for not following properly the regulative principles. And so he said, if Damodar gives me his permissions, Damodar, he is understanding the heart of all of these rules by which I may be criticized by so much better than anyone else. If he says it is fine, then it is fine. So like this, Mahaprabhu spoke. And then, Damodoro kohe tumi shotantro ishor korto bakartobo shobo tomaro gochoro. He said, my Lord, you are the fully independent Supreme Personality of Godhead. Namamishwaram. Since everything is known to you, you are the one who knows what is allowed and what is not allowed. Ami kon khudro jeev tomake bidhi dibo. Apni milibe tare tahao dekhibo. I'm just a small, insignificant spirit soul. What sort of potency do I have? What shakti do I have to try to instruct and direct you? It is fully up to you what to do in regards to meeting this king. This king, he has so much attachment to you. And I can see that you clearly are reciprocating this attachment. Your heart is softened by this king's great behavior. So because of the virtue of this king's affection, I know, Mahaprabhu, you will not be able to resist to reciprocate the love of your devotee. We describe you as Ishwar, Ishwar, the supreme controller who is independent of all things. But you are Damodar. You are Ishwar, you are independent. You are independent of everything but one thing. Bhaktaiva baddham. You are dependent on the love and affection of your devotees. You are independent of everything, but you are not independent of the love that your devotees have for you. Nityananda Prabhu, then he continued his point. Damodar had made his point clear. And Nityananda Prabhu asked, he said, is there anyone in the three worlds who is able to ask you to see this poor king? So, so like this, they kept on speaking for a while. And then Nityananda Prabhu, he thought, actually, maybe there is a way. It was Mahaprabhu, he was not ready to give up. Mahaprabhu was sticking to his guns. And so Nityananda Prabhu, Nitai, he said, actually, I'm thinking of a solution by which both the king can be satisfied and you can be safe in your concern for preserving the dignity of the sannyas ashram. And then what did Nitai say? This is the central text for what we were discussing. This is one of the central texts. What is it? Eko bohir basho jodi deho kripa kori taha panya prana rakhe tomara shadhori. If you, out of your mercy, send one of your outer garments to the king would live, hoping to see you sometime in the future. So an interesting solution. And Mahaprabhu, he says, Prabhu ko he tumi shobo param vidban, je bhalo hoy she koro shomadhano. Since you are all very learned, whatever your authoritative decision is, I will accept. And so then Nitai, he took one garment of the Lord, and he gave this garment through the via medium of Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya to Maharaj Prataprudra. And then we come now to our central point. And this pastime goes on for a while, but I wish only to discuss up until this point. And then we will, maybe when we continue Caitanya Caritamrita classes, we will discuss this point in more detail. What does Maharaj Prataprudra do? Krishna's Kaviraj Thakur describes. Bostro panna rajaro hoilo anondito monno prabhu rupo kori kore bostrero pujonno. When the king received the old cloth, he began to worship it exactly as he would worship the Lord personally. And Srila Prabhupada has a very nectarian purport on this text. And in it, Srila Prabhupada, he writes a very nice sentence. The Lord's clothing, bedding, slippers, and everything required as an ordinary necessity are all transformations of Shesh, Vishnu, the expansion of Sri Baladev. Thus the cloth and other paraphernalia of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are but other forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything connected to the Lord is worshipable. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs us that just as Krishna is worshipable, Krishna's place, Vrindavan, is also worshipable. And as Vrindavan is worshipable, similarly the paraphernalia in Vrindavan, the trees, roads, river, everything is worshipable. A pure devotee sings this, Jaya Jaya Vrindavana Vasi Yata Janna. All glories to the residents of Vrindavan. If a devotee has such a staunch devotional attitude, all these conclusions will be awakened or revealed within the heart. Thus we should follow in the footsteps of pure devotees like Maharaj Prataprudra. We should follow in their footsteps, and we should learn the worship of all of these items. Elsewhere, it is said that it is in one sense even higher to worship the paraphernalia. And where is that elsewhere? It is in the Padma Purana. And what does the Padma Purana say? Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnur aradhanam param Tasmat parattaram devi Taddiyanam samarchanam. Oh Devi, the most exalted system of worship is the worship of Lord Vishnu. Greater than that is the worship of Tadiya. Tadiya. Or anything belonging to Vishnu. Sri Vishnu is such an Ananda Vigraha, Srila Prabhupada ends his purport with. Similarly, the most confidential servant of Krishna, the spiritual master, and all devotees of Vishnu are Tadiya. The Satchidananda Vigraha, Guru, Vaishnavas, and things used by them must be considered Tadiya, and without a doubt worshipable by all living beings. And not only are they worshipable, let us repeat, Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnur Aradhanam param tasmat parattaram devi taddiyanam samarchanam. Greater than worship of Vishnu is the worship of Tadiya, those things belonging to Vishnu. And this pastime here is illustrating that. Maharaj Pratabrudra, such a great king, and he is constantly engaged in the worship of the paraphernalia, the clothing remnants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore we say, Namastestu Damne Spura Dipti Dhamne. Therefore we can worship this transcendental rope, which is the paraphernalia of Damodar Lila. And on that note, we conclude our discussion of Damodarashtakam. We're not ending today's class, but I'm just saying we've now completed our study, going through word for word the Damodarashtakam. There's so many things I could have said that I did not. So many things I couldn't have said that are possible to be said about the Damodarashtakam that I did not say. But we have studied some of it, and I hope this study has been fruitful. So now I'll quickly sing through the Damodarashtakam, and then we will begin to hear about the Damodar Lila from Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam. So we go, Namamishwaram Sachidananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam Yashodabhiyo Lukaladhavamanam Yashodabhiyo Lukaladhavamanam Paramrishtamatyan Tato Drutya Gopya Rudantam Muhur Netra Yugmam Rijantam Karambhoja Yugmena Satanka Netram Muhushvasakam Patri Rekhanka Kantha Sthita Graivam Damodaram Bhakti Baddham Iti Drikswalila Bhirananda Kunde Swagosham Nimajantam Makhyapayantam Tadiyeshitagyeshu bhaktarjitatvam Tadiyeshitagyeshu bhaktarjitatvam Puna prematastam shaktabritti vande Varam deva mokshana mokshavadhim va Nachanyam vrineham va reshadapiha Idante va purnatha gopala balam Sada me manasya virastam kimanyai Idante mukham bhojam atyanta nilai Vritam kuntalai snigdha raktaischa gopya Muhushchumbitam bimba raktadharam me manasya virastam alam rakshalabhai Namo deva damodara ananta vishno prasida prabho dukha jalabdhi magnam Kripa drishti vrishtyati dinam batanu grihane shamamagyam nedhyakshi drishyaha Kuveratma jao badha murtyaiva yadva Tvaya mochitao bhakti bhajao kritao cha Tatha prema bhaktim swakam me prayacha. Tatha prema bhaktim swakam me prayacha. Namokshe graho mesti damodare ha. Namaste stu damne spuradipti dhamne. Twadiodarayatha vishwasya dhamne. Namo radhikayai twadiya priyayai. Namo radhikayai twadiya priyayai. Namananta lilaya devaya tubhyam. So with that, we conclude this Damodarashtakam study. This is a profound prayer of Satyavrata Muni, which has been recorded so wonderfully in the Padma Purana. And we'll now begin very quickly for today, and then tomorrow we will discuss it further. And then on and then for the final day of Kartik, which if I think correctly is either next Monday or it's tomorrow. Anyways, whatever the final day of Kartik is, we will conclude the discussion of the pastime. But we will begin a tiny bit now. And so this pastime, it begins in the 9th chapter of 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And it begins with Mother Jashoda one day. One day she has witnessed that all of the other maidservants, they're engaged with household affairs. And so she was churning the yogurt. Now there's a few explanations for this. One is that, obviously, Mother Jashoda, obviously Krishna, he's always stealing butter. He's always stealing dairy. He's always stealing butter and ghee and all. Krishna is not, he's not on a dairy-free diet. We can offer anything to Krishna, obviously. And for certain time, place, and circumstances, especially for preaching, when we are doing outreach, sometimes it is appropriate to use non-dairy products in order to make the preaching more accessible. However, among devotees, we should always be offering milk to Krishna. We should not be using Krishna as some magic trick. We just clap our hands and whatever we put before him is prasad. And it's all based on our desires. We don't want to eat dairy, so we just don't serve it to Krishna. Making prasad, or rather cooking bhoga, to be offered to Krishna has nothing to do with what you want or don't want to eat. And Krishna is very clear that he loves dairy, he loves butter, he loves ghee. Why would we deny that to the Supreme Lord? It's only pure selfishness, actually. Anyways, I won't get into that too much. It can get controversial. But this point, nevertheless, is not controversial. This is just Shastric fact. So he's always stealing butter. So Mother Jashoda, sometimes she became a little curious. She was thinking, why is Krishna going? Why is Krishna going all of the time to all of these other people's houses and stealing their butter? Why can't she eat our butter, my butter? Is there something wrong with the food at home? Is there something wrong here? So she was having this desire in her heart for a while, thinking why? Why is Krishna eating butter elsewhere? So Mother Jashoda, she had been collecting up cows from she had been collecting up the milk from these very special cows that make the most flavorsome type of milk. And so she got it all, and she was getting ready. And today was a very fitting day, a very, very fitting day for Mother Jashoda to try to use this special milk to make some better dairy, some better butter, some better yogurt for Krishna. Why? Because this day is Deepavali. Today, obviously, we say Diwali these days, but technically it is Deepavali. I'm actually not sure where this idea of pronouncing it Diwali comes from, but I've not found it in any Sanskrit text, so it must be some modern thing. Maybe it is like saying Bombay or something, like a westernized pronunciation that then got adopted predominantly. Who knows? So on this day, we know it is a very, very big festival. And so, in order to prepare for this day, Mother Jashoda's maidservants, they were all running around preparing things. So they were not able to make the yogurt. Also, furthermore, it is likely that the Indra Puja was happening the day after. So they all had to also be preparing for the Indra Puja as well. We know it stopped being Indra Puja, it became Govardhan Puja after a while. But Govardhan Lila had not happened yet. So they were also getting ready. So very busy time, even for devotees. Diwali and then the next day Govardhan Puja is very busy time for us. Back to back. The only more busy time is probably Janmashtami and then Srila Prabhupada's appearance day. This is probably the only other equivalent time, but it's very busy time. And so it is also very busy for the maidservants of Jashodama. So being very busy for those maidservants, Mother Jashoda thought, this is the perfect time for me to make the yogurt. I will try to make it as nice as possible. I will make it so delicious with this special milk, with all of the love in my heart. And then what did she do? What did she do while churning this? She began to remember the childhood memories, the childhood activities of Krishna. And she began to compose her own little bhajans, her own little poetry, and she was singing these constantly while churning. All of these different pastimes, the killing of all of the demons, Krishna being her sweet son, all sorts of pastimes were being meditated upon. And how? By the composition of poetry. This is a very interesting point. Nowadays, if we want to capture a moment, we photograph it or we videograph it. But actually, how often is it our experience that we see such a beautiful thing and we think, I wish to capture this in a photograph. I want to capture this in a video. And then we go and we take a photo, we take a video, and either two things happen. The most common thing is we think, oh, this looks nothing like it. It's not beautiful at all. Or we'll take a photo and we say, yeah, this is kind of how it looks like. But then we show it to someone else. And they don't have that experience. They don't feel that feeling that you felt when you saw all that immaculate beauty. They just say, oh yeah, it kind of looks cool. That's what they'll say. They won't have that experience that you had. And the reason for this is, what makes beauty profound is actually the experience we have of it. It has nothing to do particularly, it has something to do with it, but doesn't have much to do with the actual image itself. The experience of seeing the beautiful sunset is the real beauty, not so much how the light reflects. Obviously, the reflection of light is a deep and integral part to that. But what makes it such a profound experience is actually the nature of experiencing it itself. Not just capturing pixels on a screen. What does this have to do with poetry? Poetry is very powerful as a tool for capturing moments, for capturing feelings, for capturing how something is, because poetry doesn't aim to give a scientific explanation of things. Poetry doesn't aim to give you the dimensions of something. Poetry doesn't aim to give you the pixels or the colors. Poetry aims to express how it felt like to experience something. And when poetry is successful, it can capture some profound experiences. It can capture some amazing things when poetry is successful. When it is successful, it can capture a moment like nothing else can. Why? Because it is not capturing an aspect of the moment. It is capturing the very experience of the moment itself. And therefore, back in those days, poetry was how people retained moments. Because this was the most natural way by which we could record and remember happy memories. So this is why Mother Jashoda. One might think maybe she was just singing the poetry because, if she was having access to our Kali Yuga filthy technology. Of course, the technology itself isn't inherently filthy, but it's used mainly filthily. It's mainly used for sense gratification, for watching TV, for watching maybe things more degraded than TV, all things like this. But when using Krishna's service, of course, technology becomes good again. But we might say, oh, she would just have recorded it with her mobile phone, and then she would have been watching Krishna playing. No, no, no. The magic of poetry still remains. This is why poetry is still sung today. We still engage in poetry today. We still hear poetry today. People are still composing poetry today. Poetry is very, very valuable. And so Mother Jashoda, Mother Jashoda, she was with her beautiful yellow sari and a belt, while wearing a belt. She was pulling on the churning rope, laboring and laboring and laboring. Her bangles and earrings all moving and vibrating as her whole body was shaking at the movement of her churning. And filled with Vatsalya Bhav, filled with Vatsalya Prem. Her breasts, they began to become filled with all of this maternal milk. And so like this, she was laboring away. Her eyebrows covered with sweat. And all of the flowers, the malati flowers that she had decorated her hair with were all falling down as she was working and working away. So, like this, Krishna saw his mother. And seeing her, seeing this intense moment of Vatsalya, actually, my spiritual master, I was listening to a class he was giving on Damodar pastime. And he said, Mother Jashoda's breast milk, we should not understand it to be like the breast milk of this world. Mother Jashoda's breast milk is not. It's not material. It is not a certain amount of fats in water or whatever. It's a colloid, I think. I don't know. I haven't. It's been a while since I did high school chemistry. It's not like there's some colloid of fat or whatever. No, no, no. Mother Jashoda's breast milk is pure condensed Vatsalya Prem. It is not some material thing. It is a spiritual substance. And her prem, her ecstatic love, in the Vatsalya Rasa, in the mood of a parent, becomes so intense and it takes form in her breast milk. And so seeing that her breasts had become full with this Vatsalya Prem, Krishna, he saw this and he thought, well, Krishna is who? Krishna is Rasaraj. Krishna desires so strongly to taste the devotion of his devotees. And seeing this, he thought, wow, this is very tasty. This will be devotion that will be very nice for me to feast upon. Actually, because to be as devoted as Mother Jashoda is maybe not possible for us. Our goal is not to become like the Ragatmik devotees in Vraj. Our goal is to follow in their footsteps. One should not desire to become Mother Jashoda, but one should follow in the footsteps of love that she has laid out in the life that she lives. And so, seeing his mother like this, Krishna, he has two ideas. One is he thinks, I want to taste this. He got up in the morning, he was like, I'm hungry, I want to eat. And seeing this, he thought, now this is some devotion that will be very satisfying to my appetite. But the other motivation he had is he knew by engaging in this pastime, he would increase Mother Jashoda's maternal love for him. He would increase the ecstasy she was feeling from maternal love. And with this motivation, Krishna, he got out. And what did he do? He grabbed hold of the churning rod she was using to churn. And grabbing hold of it, he stopped her churning. And then what happened next? We will hear about that tomorrow. And we will also hear there is a great significance to the churning rod being held. Hari Sauri has written very many great commentaries, and he has explained the esoteric significance of Krishna grabbing the churning rod like that. But we will discuss that again tomorrow. But on this note, we will conclude the Damodar Lila class for today, and then we will continue again tomorrow. Shri Shri Satyavrata Muni ki jai, Shri Shri Padma Purana ki jai, Shri Shri Damodarashtakam ki jai, Srila Sanatana Goswami Acharya Pada ki jai, Shri Hari Bhakti Vilasa ki jai, Shri Shri Kartik Masa ki jai, Shri Urjeshwari ki jai, Shri Radha Damodar ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nittai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bo. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.